So once you've installed Cantaris on your computer, you head over to your email, get your license key, and then add the license key, copy and paste it into this field right here, and click Activate License. And after a couple of seconds, this will take you to the login screen, in which you can either immediately make a new user and start making measurements, or, as I would advise, visit the options screen first. Look at the next video what to do there. So once you reach the login screen, you could immediately start making a new user for this account, or first check a few options. Now, we advise to check in on the options and just click Options. First, you could change your language to any of the supported languages, of course. And then visit the button Workspace. Now, with the workspace in Cantaris, we mean one folder on your computer that will contain all of the sounds, all of the analysis, all of the, let's say, backend data that Cantaris will be using. Now, you don't need to visit this folder yourself, so it's only a folder that Cantaris needs to find every time you open it. So this workspace folder has a standard place on Mac and a standard place on Windows. So you could use that, but we would advise you to just pick another space on your computer to have a clear view of where all your files are. So you could click Browse, and then, for example, select your desktop or your documents folder or any folder that you use for your work or your voice profession. And when you click Apply and Restart, then Cantaris will, in the next time it restarts, pick that workspace. So that's an important step to do. And then you're going to make a new user. Now, let's say that I'm going to use my first initial and then my last name, for example. You could pick anything you want, of course. And then I'm going to pick a password. Click New User. And I'm not going to do this right now, but you could save this backup code, which is a code that you can use when you lose your password. Now, these credentials, these usernames and passwords, they are only saved, they're encryptically saved, so very safely saved on your computer and not on any Cantaris server or website. So that also means that next to the fact that it's really safe, we from Cantaris cannot find your credentials. So when you lose your password, you will need your backup code. Now, just click Login, and it'll take you to the main screen in which we are going to make a few measurements. So Cantaris brought us right here. And this is the main screen that you will be using when you record and measure a sound. It will visualize it right here. So at the center of the screen, we see the diagram in which all of these drawings will be put. We see the piano. At the left, of course, our lowest tones, and at the right, our highest tones. And on the y-axis, we see decibels. So that is the loudness of the voice sound. Up here, we see visualization, and we can activate or deactivate certain kinds of profiles, which we'll delve into in a second. We can record our voice with these buttons, and the colors of these recording buttons match the visualizations that we see right here. With key measurements, we mean lowest and highest, softest and loudest, the ranges in between these, and also speaking voice metrics, which we will call, let's say, the mean speaking pitch or speaking loudness of normal speech and soft speech, or loud or shouting. So these are the key measurements that we can extract from that. Before we're going to measure anything, we need to add a person of which we're going to make the measurement. For example, ourselves or a client. And we can see current measurement right here, which means the current date on which we're measuring, which we can change, of course, because when we're going to make more measurements of the same person, we can overlay them or see the differences between them. So let's first see if our microphone is currently connected as an input in Cantaris. And for that, we click Options, and then we click Audio and Calibration Settings. And we can see a new screen right here. Let's add an equipment, and with equipment we mean one total setup. So right now I'm using an external audio interface on my desk, and I'm using this microphone right here, and it's connected to this computer. So that's a setup. Now, if I decide to unplug this microphone and use it on another computer, then I'll need to add that setup, that equipment setup, to that computer when I'm going to use it with Cantaris. So when I click Add, Cantaris will be looking for the microphone. And I want to use this microphone right here, the iTrack Solo. That is the microphone that I'm using right now. And when I make sound, I need to see some change on this meter right here. So I could twist the button a little bit, but what I want to see is that there's no clipping when I make loud sounds. So let's make a loud sound. Ah. Alright, so I can see that there's no clipping. And with clipping, I mean that the blueness of the bar reaches all the way up to the right. If that would happen, you would need to adjust your microphone input, for example on your audio interface, a little bit downward. So there's no clipping on loud sounds, and when I make soft sounds, I can still see a little bit of change right here in this blue bar, which means that it's being recorded and seen by the microphone. So these two things are really important. We want loud vocation to be still measured correctly and non-clipped, and soft vocation to still be visible right here. So let's give that a name. I'm at work right now, so let's say this is the work setup. Just give it a name. And then Cantaris will say that I need to calibrate this. With calibration, we mean using a decibel meter to put the decibel values right up to the same line, let's say, to calibrate them. So when I make exactly 50 decibels with my voice, I want Cantaris to say 50, because we knew that the decibel meter would have said the same. So pulling Cantaris up to the level of the decibel meter is called calibration. There will be a different video for that. So let's just click OK here and save, because right now we've put this microphone into Cantaris, and we can double check that with clicking on live biofeedback. So at this moment we need to see a change in frequency in the diagram. Alright, so this is looking very good. Let's deactivate live biofeedback by just clicking on it, and let's get recording. Alright, so let's make a measurement. First, we need to create a new person in Cantaris, and we do that by going to this part right here, selected person, and clicking the little plus button below it. We can fill in a name. Let's just make a measurement of myself. So I'll fill in my name, and you will need a date of birth. Other fields are optional, like gender, the voice classification, maybe if that's interesting to you, the repertoire or things that you're working on, and maybe coaching goals for your client. Click Save to add this person. We can immediately see that Cantaris tells us what the age is, and it made a measurement for this person on the date of today. When you click that date, you will see numbers. So this is measurement number 1 for this person, on this date, and you can filter or change or scroll in the list to select another measurement. So, all right, let's record some basic vocal like ah, which would be the most steady vocal, and see where my voice is at the moment. We would do that within what we would call the vocal performance range. So that will be part of the total range of vocalization that I am able to perform. Click Record VPR, and at that moment the button will become red and it will immediately start recording. So at this moment I would explain to my client, okay, we're going to measure this and that, we're going to measure your voice, let's produce this kind of sound. So I'm instructing my client, and when I click, I can give a hand signal for my client to start what we agreed upon. So let's do that. Click. Click. So these two clicks were enough. And right here we can see that that's a certain loudness. Let's say around 47 decibels, which was the max, and 34 decibels, which was the lowest. Now do keep in mind that this is not a calibrated system, so that's good to know. There were 13 decibels between the softest and the loudest vocalization, and then this tone was roughly around C3, which is this tone on the piano. I can click it. And B2, which is of course the semitone below it. So that is where my voice was at for this recording. And when you've made this recording, you can not only see these key measurements right here, but you also see these tiny buttons appear. So you can click harmonicity to view the amount of harmonicity versus the noise in the sound. We'll make all kinds of different videos about this later on. You can see irregularity, with which we call the amount of regularity in vocal fold vibration. Vocal ring, which is the total amount of 3000 Hertz activation. They sometimes call this the singer's formant. Quality, which is a very high quality recording and measurement of the voice quality of sound. So that's roughness, breathiness, irregularity, all is put in there. So this is the best kind of measurement we have. And we see a button called recordings. Now with recordings, we open up this field at the right, and we can see that there's a blue color that outlines this number 1, and it's connected to the same kind of blue in the diagram right here. Now, of course, we made only one recording, so this is the only recording we can see. When we click it, we get immediately more detail of our sound. We get an oscillogram, which is the sound that we see right here. We get a pitch contour, so this was what my pitch did around these, let's say 130 Hertz. And we can see a spectrogram, a small band spectrogram. We could also right-click the pitch and switch to intensity to see the loudness. So we can switch that a little bit. And we can select the sound or a part of the sound and click play to hear the sound back. Now, clicking this number 1 again is going to deselect it. So you can select and deselect, and clicking back on vocal ring or irregularity is going to change the view again, of course. So you can do some more things right here. So you can click and drag, and if you like this sound, you can click the export button right here to make a sound file, for example, to send to your colleague or to send to your client. And you can also delete the sound, and it will be permanently deleted also from the diagram. We will see that later on. So this is the vocal performance range, and let's also make a normal speaking voice recording. So the green normal button is exactly for that. What we could do is use a text that our client could read aloud, or we could ask them to just say something about their week, So you can use any kind of stimulus as long as you yourself know what you're doing. So whatever you use in your profession, do that. So in my way of working, I can just click this button and let's just talk a little bit, talk something about the weekend, for example, and let's see what my voice has done during this recording when I end it and click right now. So this is what my voice has done. I was speaking on 121 Hertz, which is B2, which is actually quite around the same area that my vocal ah was at. I put my voice right in between these parts right here. So this is the range, and the range was approximately from G2 to G sharp 3, which is slightly more than an octave, 1 octave and 1 semitone. We can see it in the musical notation right here. And you can also see that the speech range profile was activated. And when I click on vocal performance range to activate that also, we can see an overlay. Now there isn't really much to overlay at the moment, but you can see a more schematized version of it. Let's deselect the vocal performance range again, and we can also see these small buttons like quality. We can see the quality of the voice and recordings. So again, we can select normal, and we can view this sound. Now the same things apply here. I can click and drag to select the voice of my client and click play to hear it all again. I can again export this or delete this, or make, as you would have noticed, a voice report. That's something for another video. And deselect my sound to go back to my main view. So these are the main ways in which we can add a person, see our current measurement, and make some recordings. And let's see if I can click this plus button right here to make a new recording, and I can do in my vocal performance range, which wasn't only louder, but it was also higher. I can click right here, select my other measurements, and you can see that I can just switch between the two. All right, so let's play around with that a little bit, and then let's see if we can record the lowest and highest frequencies that someone might be able to produce. Let's see if we can measure how low and how high our voice or our client's voice is able to go. We're back at this person right here, which is me, and I can click on the plus icon to make a new measurement. I can make as much measurements as I want, and when we're going to record VPR, going to record the vocal performance range, we could instruct our client to glide on a tone to the lowest frequency they could go and breathe maybe in between and glide upwards to the highest frequency they could go. You can do that in 1 or 2 or 100 recordings. That doesn't really matter because all of these recordings are put into this diagram for this person. Now let's see how that goes, and let's also produce, maybe for the sake of the experiment, some vocal fry, so we can see how vocal fry is going to look in this diagram, because at least in my way of thinking about voice, the vocal fry isn't really part of the total voice range, so we will need to delete that a little bit to see the true total vocal range. So let's record the VPR and let's make a few gliding tones. So this was what happened in this single recording. Of course, I can click recordings again, and I can view all of these different tries right here. Click and drag to select a part. This was the part where my voice changed register. And let's go back. What we're probably more interested in is what our chest register versus our head voice has done. And we can see the vocal fry right here. So this is these small red parts. That was probably also where the voice was the most irregular. When you've selected the vocal performance range, you can click Options and click Eraser to activate the eraser function, and you can deselect those sounds to just get them out. And then we will reach one firm line. And now, when we look at the diagram right here and the key measurements, we see that the true lowest frequency was 85 Hertz and the true highest was 574 Hertz, which is D5. So this is the total range of my voice at the moment, or at least in these recordings, in this try. Now, let's say that I warmed up my voice more and I'm just going to add a new recording to it to see if I can reach any lower, for example. Then I can just click record again and make a new recording on top of it, and it will add it to this. Now, let's say that I make a new recording, but I kind of mess up a little bit and I don't think that this measurement belongs here. For example, something like this. Now, something happened here and I cannot really discern it from the rest of the voice. So let me find that out by clicking recording and seeing that in this second recording, this happened. I can check it by clicking it and listening to it. And if I think I need to delete this, I'm just going to click delete and click yes, and then it's gone from my total measurement system. Clicking another profile like the speech range profile or the song range profile actively next to the vocal performance range is going to make it more of a schematic drawing. So it's still the same data. When you deselect the other profiles, you can see more detail again, but the schematic approach will work better when you're overlaying a song or overlaying speech on top of this. Now, last thing to do is when you're coaching your client to see how high or how low they can go, you may want to click a piano tone to hear that frequency. For example, so you can click, hear the voice, replicate it, and see if that maybe helps your client to move more towards that tone. So this is one of the things that our clients use it the most for, but of course you can do way more with it, and we're going to make way more videos about what you can measure, but measuring the voice range is one of the most interesting things.